3, 2, 1. Well, hello and greetings once again from Groveport, Ohio. This is Pastor James M. Lawson, and how are you wonderful, fine folks doing again today? Again, it is still Monday, April the 20th of the year 2015. This is now video number 3. And it's becoming a whole new series now of shocking news, Satan, not an angel, and then in parentheses, a deeper look into Isaiah chapter 14. So once again, it's a totally different series than my first 4 videos. Okay, picking up exactly where we left off, and I just had to keep going, because I got still got a lot more information to cover and more books to reference and read and so on and so forth. And I'm really hoping to try to get this done in 3 to 4 videos. I was originally wanting to get it done in 2. That didn't happen. So picking up exactly where I left off, let me go back to these notes first. This is the Wikipedia notes. The Greek myth of Phaethon, whose name, like that of Helios, means shining one, has also been seen as similar. Okay. So, I introduced this at the very end of the last video, video number 2. This is The Two Babylons by Reverend Alexander Hislop. It is titled The Two Babylons. The Papal worship proved to be the worship of Nimrod and his wife. So, we can reference this god, which was in Canaanite mythology, I believe, because that's what it said earlier, Phaethon. Now, you can, once again, you can buy this particular book. This is a softback book on a lot of different websites, Amazon and a lot of other websites. You can also download and get this book free online. However, once again, like I said earlier of the Book of Jasher, when you're viewing the online book of it, the page numbers may not exactly match the actual softback book itself. So be careful with that. I'm just throwing that out there because I'm telling you where to go and how to find this so you can read it for yourselves. But just be aware that the page numbers might not match exactly. Okay? Unfortunately, this book does not have like chapters and verses and all that. It's not a biblical type of a book. Where I am going in this particular book is page 230. Oh, I got it bookmarked. Why am I digging through it? Page 230. Let me set a little bookmark down there. And I am in the second paragraph. See, that's the first paragraph on the page. I'm in the second paragraph on this page, so that you guys can go and look it up and read this for yourself. In these other respects, yet to be noticed, there is an exact coincidence between Vulcan, the god of fire of the Romans, and Nimrod, the fire god of Babylon. In the case of the classic Vulcan, it is only in his character of the fire god as a physical agent that he popularly represented, but it was in his spiritual aspects, in cleansing and regeneration the souls of men, that the fire worship told most effectively on the world. The power, the popularity, and the skill of Nimrod, that's very key important. Nimrod was the king of the most ancient Babylonian empire, the one who built the city and the tower in the land of Shinar, just so you know who Nimrod is, as well as the seductive nature of the system itself, enabled him to spread the delusive doctrine far and wide. And he was represented under the well-known name of Phaethon, P-H-A-E-T-H-O-N. Exactly what we saw here in the Wikipedia notes. So the Wikipedia notes is backed up by Alexander Hislop in his book, and this book is backed up by the Wikipedia notes. Okay, back to where I was at, Phaethon. As on the point of setting the whole world on fire. Or without the poetical metaphor of involving all mankind in the guilt of fire worship, the extraordinary prevalence of the worship of the fire god in the early ages of the world is proved by legends found all over the earth and by facts in almost every clime. I think it should be every time, but he used the word climb there. I am done with that. Now, what I will say is this. I'm going to put this book over here off to the side. What I will say is this. Again, The Two Babylons by Reverend Alexander Hislop, Christian Worldview. This book here, The Secret Teachings of All Ages by Maynard P. Hall, a Freemason worldview. However, I will say this, just to make sure that people understand that the whole book of Alexander Hislop is, in other words, people have already tried to attack Alexander Hislop's book. I got a good friend of mine that sent me an article or something of where somebody was trying to attack Alexander Hislop's book. I'm not here to defend that at this time. I don't have time. This is a video. I will say this. This book, coming from a Freemason worldview, backs up probably almost 99% of everything that Alexander Hislop says. This has a lot more details than what even Alexander Hislop says. So it backs it up, plus it gives a lot more details. But when it comes to a lot of these ancient religions, especially the Babylonian religion, and how it became diverse and spread out through all the earth, these are two awesome books. And I will say this. The Alexander Hislop book, The Two Babylons, I happened to read in 2008. I read it from cover to cover. That book is what God used to open my eyes back in 2008 so that I could see the modern day application of what Isaiah 14 and Ezekiel 28 prophesy. That's what God used to show me and open my eyes to see this whole new modern day application. Who it applies to and the system of religion that it applies to. How it has been handed down throughout the ages in secret societies and myths and legends and folklore of all these different secret religions and secret society religions. That is how it has been handed down all these years. So I highly suggest that each person watching my video go and get a copy of Reverend Hislop's The Two Babylons. It is an awesome book. You'll love it. It will open your eyes to a whole lot. Okay? I have to move on. I really have to keep moving on because, like I said, I got a lot of information to cover. Back to the notes. The Wikipedia notes that I copied out. And picking up where I left off, the Erdmann's commentary on the Bible points out that no evidence has been found of any Canaanite myth of a God being thrown from heaven, as in Isaiah 14:12. It concludes that the closest parallels with Isaiah's description of the king of Babylon as a falling morning star cast down from heaven are to be found not in any lost Canaanite or other myths, but in traditional ideas of the Jewish people themselves, echoed in the biblical account of the fall of Adam and Eve, cast out of God's presence for wishing to be as God, and picture in Psalms 82. I'm not going to read Psalms 82. Read that for yourself. Okay, I'm giving you the reference because that's what the Wikipedia note says. Go and read Psalms 82 for yourself. Of the gods and sons of the Most High, destined to die and fall. You find that in Psalms 82. The Jewish tradition has echoes also in Jewish pseudepigrapha, such as 2nd Enoch and the life of Adam and Eve. Moving on. Okay, if you keep scrolling down in the Wikipedia, the one that I showed you guys earlier, you'll come to the next section, the next paragraph. Latin word Lucifer. As an adjective, the Latin word Lucifer meant light bringing, was applied to the moon. We'll probably see some more of that here later on as well. As a noun, it meant morning star. Or in Roman mythology, its divine personification as the fabled son of Aurora and Cephalus and father of Sex, C-E-Y-X, sex, or well, I don't know how to say that. In poetry, the word day, the second, that's where it comes from, the word day. The second of the meanings attached to the word when used as a noun corresponds to the image in Greek mythology of Eos, E-O-S, the goddess of dawn giving birth to the morning star, Phosphorus. Okay, keep moving on. I do not believe I actually have notes on that. I'll look just to make sure that I didn't have Eos and Phosphorus. No, I don't. Okay, just want to make sure. In Isaiah 14:12, it is not the only place where the Vulgate uses the word Lucifer. It uses the same word 4 more times in contexts where it clearly has no reference to a fallen angel. The first place is 2 Peter 1:9, which that word has the meaning morning star. Second place is Job chapter 11 verse 17, and that word has the meaning the light of the morning. The third place is Job chapter 38 verse 32, and that word has the meaning the signs of the zodiac. And finally, the fourth place is Psalms 110 verse 3, and that word simply means the dawn. To speak of the morning star Lucifer is not the only expression that the Vulgate uses. 3 times it uses Stella Matutina. Once again, Latin words, I'm not that great on pronouncing everything, so bear with me. Okay, the first place that is found in is in the book of Sirach, which is a pseudepigrapha book. You'll have to go and find the, you can find that in some Bibles, some Catholic Bibles. Anyway, Sirach chapter 50, verse 6, to give reference to the exact chapter and verse. Okay, and second, Revelations chapter 2, verse 28, and what Wikipedia has in parentheses after that particular verse is of uncertain reference. However, I put as a side note, but I believe that is a reference to Jesus. When you read Revelations chapter 2, verse 28, I believe that is a reference to Jesus. Okay. Moving on, and in the third place is Revelations chapter 22 and verse 16, referring to Jesus. Jesus calls himself the bright and morning star, the Son of David, bright and morning star. I kind of mentioned this in my other videos, the original 4 videos, so go back and reference those videos for a lot, a little bit more help and more detail to get, quote unquote, the bigger picture. I don't have time to rehash everything I said because I've already said it. Moving on. We're still under the Latin word Lucifer. Indications that in Christian tradition the Latin word Lucifer, unlike the English word, did not necessarily call a fallen angel to mind, exist also outside the text of the Vulgate. 2 bishops, these were Catholic bishops, bore that name. Saint Lucifer of Cagliari, something like that, and Lucifer of Siena. So two Catholic bishops bore the name Lucifer. Do you honestly think that, even as, twisted and perverted as the Catholic Church probably was by that time, but do you still honestly believe that they're going to name 2 Catholic bishops after the devil? Not in open, they're not. Anyway, so in Latin, the word is applied to John the Baptist and is used as a title of Christ himself in several early Christian hymns. Remember, in my other videos, the first 4 videos of Satan was not an angel, I said that the title of Morning Star was a title of royalty. That statement is still true, but I don't know. It's not as clear, as in just talking about a title, okay? But anyway, going on, I made that statement in those original videos. Go back and reference those videos. Okay, I'm going to get into some Latin words here in just a minute, so bear with me on the pronunciation of these. The morning hymn, Lucius Largitor Splendid of Hilary, contains the line, Tu verus mundi Lucifer, which means, you are the true light bringer of the world. Some interpreted the mention of the morning star, Lucifer, in Ambrose's hymn, Etern Rerum Cungitor, as referring allegorically to Christ and the mention of the cock, the herald of the day, Preso. I hope I pronounced that right. In the same hymn as referring to John the Baptist. Likewise, in the medieval hymn, Christi qui lux es et dies, some manuscripts have the line Lucifer lucem proferens. The Latin word Lucifer is also used of Christ in the Easter proclamation prayer to God regarding the paschal candle. Again, I'm starting with the Latin. Bear with me on pronunciation. Flammus ius Lucifer matutinus inveniat il inquam Lucifer qui nescit occasum Christus filius tuus qui regressus ab inferis humana generi serenus elixit et vivit et regnat in secula seculorum. Okay, that was all the Latin. Here's the translation in English. May this flame be found still burning by the morning star. The morning star who never sets. Christ, your Son, who coming back from the death's domain has shed his peaceful light on humanity and lives and reigns forever and ever. In the works of Latin grammarians, Lucifer, like Daniel, was discussed as an example of a personal name. The next, as you scroll down in the in Wikipedia, as you're scrolling down, the next paragraph is literal meaning. So I'm just going to read from where I've got it printed out. The Hebrew words Hallel ben Shahar, day star, son of morning, in Isaiah 14:12, are part of a prophetic vision against an oppressive king of Babylon. Jewish exegesis of Isaiah 14 verses 12 through 15 took a humanistic approach by identifying the king of Babylon as Nebuchadnezzar II. Verse 20 says that this king of Babylon will not be joined with them, and he put it in like parentheses, all the kings of the nations in burial, because thou hast destroyed thy land, thou hast slain thy people, the seed of evildoers shall not be named forever, but rather be cast out of the grave, while all kings of the nations, all of them, sleep in glory, every one in his own house. I'm at 23 minutes. I forgot to set my stopwatch. Now, there is another paragraph in Wikipedia. Now, you can go and read this paragraph for yourself. In that Wikipedia thing that I showed you earlier, for whatever reason, I decided to skip it. Okay? It's the paragraph titled Intertestamental Period. I read it at first. I was going to cover it. I just don't think it's relevant enough for me to cover. Therefore, I am purposely going to skip it. But you guys can read it for yourself. The next paragraph down below that is allegorical interpretation in Christianity. So I skipped that one paragraph, going down to the next. Apart from the literal meaning of Isaiah 14:12, which applies to a king of Babylon, Christian writers applied the words allegorically to Satan. I hope I say his name right. Sigve, S-I-G-V-E-K, Tonstad, argues that in the New Testament itself, the war in heaven theme of Revelations chapter 12 verses 7 through 9, in which the dragon who is called the devil and Satan was thrown down to the earth, derives from the passage in Isaiah 14. Okay, Origen from who was born, he's got the notes here, 185 AD to 254 AD, interpreted such Old Testament passages as being about the manifestations of the devil, but of course, writing in Greek and not Latin, he did not identify the devil with the name Lucifer. We will look more at this later. I'll bring this back up later. But the idea was, I kind of looked up Origen a little bit. Origen wrote in both Greek and Latin, so obviously, in this particular case, when Origen was writing in Greek, he did not identify the devil with the name Lucifer. May have been a different story in Latin, but not in Greek. Okay, another person, Tertullian, 160 AD to 225 AD, who wrote in Latin, also understood Isaiah 14:14. I will ascend above the tops of the clouds. I will make myself like the Most High. That is the NIV version. You won't find that particular wording in the King James. It's the NIV version. As spoken by the devil, but Lucifer is not among the numerous names and phrases he used to describe the devil. Even at the time of the Latin writer Augustine Hippo, from 354 AD to 430 AD, Lucifer had not yet become a common name for the devil. Sometime later, the metaphor of the morning star in that Isaiah 14:12 applied to a king of Babylon gave rise to a general use of the Latin word for morning star, capitalized as the original name of the devil before his fall from grace, linking Isaiah 14:12 with Luke chapter 10 verse 18. I saw Satan fall like lightning from heaven, in the interpreting the passage in Isaiah as an allegory of Satan's fall from heaven. I'm going to pause for just a minute, about 28 minutes. Later on, in the last video, is when I am going to actually read Luke 10:28 again, and Revelations chapter 2, or chapter 12 rather, a few verses in that, because I briefly covered it in the original 4 videos. This time I'm going to cover it in a little bit more detail. But I will explain more of that, like I said, in the last video of this series, however many videos it takes. So don't fret, we will look at those later, and actually be reading them later. Back to the notes. However, the understanding of the morning star in Isaiah 14:12 as a metaphor referring to a king of Babylon continued also to exist among Christians. Hold on, let me get some water here because my throat is starting to feel dry. Theodoret of Cyrus, 393 AD to 457 AD, wrote that Isaiah calls the king morning star not as being the star, but as having had the illusion of being it. The same understanding is shown in Christian translations of the passage, which in English generally use morning star rather than treating the word as a proper name, Lucifer. So too in other languages such as French, German, Portuguese, and Spanish. Even the Vulgate text in Latin is printed with lowercase Lucifer, morning star, not uppercase Lucifer, proper name. Calvin said, this is John Calvin, the opposition of this passage for some have given it as it is referred to Satan has arisen from ignorance. John Calvin said that, not me. It's printed. John Calvin said that. Let me repeat it. This is what John Calvin has said. That it has arisen from ignorance. So take it up with John Calvin. For the context plainly shows that these statements must be understood in reference to the king of the Babylonians. Martin Luther also considered it a gross error to refer this to the devil. Okay, I'm going to pause from these notes. How many minutes am I? I'm 31 and a half minutes into this video. I just realized that I forgot something, so I'm going to backtrack. Sorry about this. Okay. Now, bringing this book back up. The 2 Babylon book. Okay. And after what we've read in Genesis chapter 4 and in the book of Jasher, where it talks about Nimrod and his wife, his queen, was Semiramis, and the kingdom that he first established, he was kinged by the people. They made him king. So he was the first along the line of many kings of the Babylonian system. Okay? Now, we also know that Nimrod later became a tyrant king. In other words, he ruled his people and he ruled over the land with an iron fist. Very tyrannical. So somewhere along the lines, Nimrod, this is a guess, but it is a guess based upon facts that I'll show you here in a minute. This is a guess that Nimrod deified himself. In other words, he made himself to be a god, and his wife, Semiramis, as a god or a goddess. Okay. Honestly, that statement cannot be entirely proven, but it can be somewhat proven, because the fact is this. What we know as a fact is that Nimrod established the early Babylonian religion. He used fire worship, he used water worship, and among other things, he introduced to people to all these worship of different gods, goddesses, and the worship of fire and water. He introduced that system. Because that we know this because, and I can, somewhat prove that he deified himself, because what happened was, when God came down and he separated the languages and he separated mankind, and mankind started spreading out in all the areas of the world, they took this religious system that Nimrod started, and once their languages were changed to different languages, all of a sudden they came up with different names for Nimrod and Semiramis as god and goddesses, or gods and goddesses. So that's why I think that Nimrod started it. He deified himself, because once they started spreading out, they were worshiping Nimrod and Semiramis. However, they had to come up with names in their own various languages. And that's what Hislop talks about in his book. When you read his book, what I did several years ago is I wrote down, and I'm not going to cover this is not really something that I'm going to read verbatim. But what I did was I took and I wrote down the many names of Nimrod, all these different pagan gods. I will mention a few: Bacchus, Tammuz, Buddha, Baal, Baal-Erpin. There's so many different names that all these pagan religions, once they had their languages mixed up, they had to give them a different name to meet their language. It's all the same person. It's all the same. It's all Nimrod. Then on the back side, I got the many names of Nimrod's wife: Semiramis, Rhea, Isis, Issy, Libel. These are just some of the names. In the process, the father of Nimrod, Cush was Nimrod's father, also got deified as well. And some of his names, I'm not going to read all of them, some of his names was Belus, or Bel, the confounder, Chaos, Cush, Baal, Hermes, Vulcan. We saw Vulcan earlier, Merodach, the great rebel, so on and so forth. So what they did was they took this worship of Nimrod after Nimrod was deified, and once they spread out with different languages all across the world, they named them different names, all still referring to Nimrod. So all of these pagan religions still basically worship the same person, which is not really, it is, but it's not. It's not just Nimrod and Semiramis. It's the procession of the kings in the line of the Babylonian system. Or more precisely put, let me say this. More precisely put, those later kings in the Babylonian system, when they were worshiping the sun gods, the different sun gods, when they were worshiping Ishtar, the moon goddess, Venus, all this, they were still worshiping Nimrod and his wife Semiramis in the Babylonian system. So it does apply to the other line of kings, but it does not. At the same time, it's a little bit of both. It's hard to really explain and grasp it. I hope that is very clear. I have to cut this video short here in about 2 minutes. 2 minutes, I got to cut this short. So that gives you an idea of how, when Nebuchadnezzar II, of the time of Isaiah, when he was writing and prophesying, the system that they were using, the Babylonian system, was worshiping a deified Nimrod as gods and his wife as goddesses. So I hope that is very clear. Very, very clear. Unfortunately, gosh, I got so much more to cover. My time is up. 39 minutes. Once again, I will pick back up where I left off. I hope this has been informative so far. I'm hoping to try to get it done in one more video. I don't want it to be a 5-video series. But anyway, God bless you, thank you, and have a great day.